Hi, thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to talk about the writings of Giorgio de Chirico. Now, of course, Giorgio de Chirico, metaphysical painter, best known for his Italian piazza paintings, painted in the second decade of the 1900s. That's what he's best known for, but he was also a poet and a writer. He usually wrote for Italian magazines. And then he also published some books. He was associated with the Surrealists and Andre Breton in the 1920s, but then they had an acrimonious split. So the first publication is this novel called Hebdomadus. Now, this is called a Surrealist novel, and that's appropriate category for it, though de Chirico called himself metaphysical painter. I don't know how he would categorize this, but it is surrealist in that it doesn't really have a narrative, and it's kind of a dreamy book. It's basically, I've read it about 4 years ago, and it's a difficult read. And so it's basically a guy with just meandering thoughts. He just looks at something, and then he thinks of something, and then he thinks of something, and thinks of another thing. Here's a modern comparison. You know, you go on the internet, and then you read a news article, and then you click on something, and then you click on something, and then you read, and then you click on something, and then you read, and then you click on something, and then you read. And then a half an hour's gone, you've been on 10 different websites, and your mind's just gone in all these different places with no purpose at all. Because there's no purpose, and then you don't know where you all were, and then when you finish, you don't know what you were doing. And that's kind of what this novel's about. It's got a guy who looks out in the world, he sees something, and then it makes him think of a memory, and then it makes him think of present time, and then it makes him think of an event, and then he's like hopping around, and there's no narrative. It's just a series of little mental explorations. And so since there's no narrative, I would call it a lyrical book, because it has a poetic quality. When he's describing these things, it's a poetical observations about the world. So surrealism, fine. That's the book Hebdomadus. De Chirico split from the Surrealists around 1925, and this was published in 1929. So that's the first one, under the name Giorgio de Chirico. Now, he was publishing in Italian magazines. De Chirico was also writing poetry, and there is a foundation of Giorgio and Isa de Chirico. It's called the Fondazione Giorgio e Isa de Chirico. Now, they are an institution that is promoting the education and legacy of de Chirico, and they put on exhibitions, and they manage a house museum in Rome, and they publish the Catalogue Raisonné, and they're very active and very helpful. Now, they have a great website, and one of the things they publish is a journal. Now, this is a copy of the journal. It's called Metaphysical Art. They publish the writings of de Chirico translated into English. So I've read many of these journals because they are free. You can buy a hard copy, but you can also see them free on their website. I'll put a link for the website, and then you can see all the journals and all the translations. So I read a shocking thing. It was very shocking for me out of this issue. And this is issue 1718 published in the year 2018. In 1945, there was a book published, Apropos de Peinture, means about painting. This book is written in French. This book is published in France. This book has an author by the name of E.G. Benito. Well, according to the foundation, Giorgio and Isa de Chirico, this book was written by Giorgio de Chirico. I read that this was written by de Chirico, and I read that many years ago, and I couldn't even believe it. And I'm kind of revisiting that myself to is this really true? And I read it again, and it's true. But anyway, here is the title page. E.G. Benito, I'm going to put this up a little closer. E.G. Benito, Apropos de Peinture, published in Paris. Okay? Let's get the focus back. Okay, so this book is about painting and lots of observations about painting. It's very interesting. It's all translated in this issue of the Metaphysical Art, and I recommend that. The next book we cover is this book. This is a monograph, Giorgio de Chirico, and it's a lot of reproductions of his art, but there's some text at the beginning. This is published in 1968, and it says right here, text by Isabella Farr. Well, Isabella Farr is the wife of Giorgio de Chirico. According to the foundation of Giorgio and Isa de Chirico, this is written by Giorgio de Chirico. He's using his wife's name. Now, there's not a lot of text in here. It's like less than 10 pages. It's mostly reproductions of the art. It is pretty good and insightful, and it's a good introduction to de Chirico for the public. But it's kind of written in kind of a public relations type of writing. Now, that monograph is published by Harry Abrams. Harry Abrams is a very highly respected American publishing company. It's unexplained how he pulled that off, because I really doubt that the publishing company Harry Abrams would allow a author to disguise his identity and have a misattribution on the publishing of that book. But that's unexplained at this time. Then you have the memoirs of Giorgio de Chirico. This is an autobiography. This was published in 1971. Obviously, this has his name. That corresponds to the author. So, the difficult transition for me was how to understand why he would use these other names when he was writing. You know, why would Giorgio de Chirico write under another name? Was it a prank? You know, was it a joke? Was he trying to deceive? Was he trying, what was he trying to do? Now, and so there's different ways you could think about this. And the way I'm thinking about it today, there's a string of auto portraits where he dresses up in costumes from different times. So like from the 18th century or 17th century, he's wearing these costumes and kind of acquiring these different identities. And when you look at the Italian Piazza paintings and all of his paintings, you should see them as imaginative paintings. That's the way I'm seeing these identities in these different authorships of the books. Also, de Chirico knew Luigi Pirandello, and I've read a couple of Pirandello's books, and they have to do with identity. And who are we internally, and who are we presenting to the world? And when you consider your identity, it's all kind of a joke. You can look at your identity as a joke to the world. And so that's kind of a way I'm thinking of Giorgio de Chirico. He's just thinking this as a joke. I'm just going to write as this name. I don't care what people think. I'm just going to, it's not so much he's trying to make people, fool people. It's just that he's just playing around with identity in a childlike way, in an imaginative way. So that's kind of what I'm thinking is going on right now. This book, another way to think about it is, this book was printed in 1945. So that makes me think that during the Italian war years, he was writing this book. He was writing a lot of stuff. And as we know from our recent experiences with COVID, it's a strange time when you're shut in and supplies are hard to get and people write things like this. And then I was looking at a little bit of Italian history. During World War II, Italy fought with Germany against the Allies. So think about if you're De Chirico living in Rome, you see all these fascists come in, then they join Germany and fight the Allies. Then, I was just looking it up on Wikipedia. In 1943, the Italians switched sides. They switched sides and joined the Allies, but some of the Italians still joined the fascists. And so there was an enormous split in Italy. So in that way, it was kind of a, they totally flip-flopped the whole country. And so it was kind of a time of identity switching. Am I allied with Germany, or am I allied with the other side? In that way, it kind of makes sense that your identity as a country is getting flip-flopped around, and maybe he felt like that with his own personality. It's a subject that needs more exposure so that people can discuss it and come up with different reasons why this occurred. That's basically what I wanted to share with you, the authorship of Giorgio de Chirico. That's all I want to cover today, and I hope you can, leave a comment. What do you think? Thanks for watching.